to it, folks. I see people are coming in. We're recording everything here. So thanks for joining us today at Secular AZ. If you are joining us, please feel free to put your name in the chat in our webinar. As you all know, white Christian nationalism is the greatest threat to our democracy, and Secular AZ is your voice for the separation of religion and government. We are a nonprofit organization, and we act as your voice to elected officials all across the state and at every level. So be sure to check out all of our social media channels and like, subscribe, and share. And I know that sounds silly and you hear it all the time, but really, if you were to take an afternoon and really just go and like every single video on our YouTube, it just helps kind of like lift us up a little bit. If you like every single one of our posts on Facebook, Threads, or Instagram, it gives us a little boost. So please, if you're not already doing that, every Substack, restack it, why don't you? If you're not already doing that, please do. It helps us out. Let's see, next week, join us as we hear from special guest, Professor, oh, I'm so excited about this one, Professor Kevin Parkinson. You might remember him. He is on Turning Point USA's Professor Watch List, and he's made a documentary about his and other educators' experience. This is the ASU professor who was targeted by operatives from Turning Point USA. So I'm very excited about that. If you do a search on Kevin Parkinson, you can find the trailer. If you go on our website, you can find the trailer for his documentary, but I'm looking forward to hearing more about his experience because it was pretty awful. But for today, I'm really excited. We have a repeat guest. We haven't seen him since 2022 when he gave us Vic's picks for the judicial nominations. So very briefly, I want to introduce him and let him get right to it. Victor Aronow graduated from Boston College Law School in 1970 and was recruited to come to Phoenix on a Reginald Heber Fellowship, a program of the Johnson War on Poverty that was intended to breathe life into moribund community legal services programs that had basically been doing only small contracts and divorces. The fellowship was for 1 year, and now, almost 55 years later, he is still in Phoenix. Thank goodness for all of us in Phoenix. He would like to move back to the East Coast, but can't give up the daily laughs of Arizona politics, from Jack Williams to Kari Lake. Boy, I will take different laughter, please. But yes, during his career, he has been a pro tem Phoenix City Court judge, the supervisor of the ASU Law School Civil Clinic, founder, Radio Phoenix, unsuccessful candidate for state senate. Hey, same, you know, and the first member of the National Lawyers Guild to invade Arizona. And in the interim, earned a master's to teach English as a second language, which took him on many adventures and travels. He serves as a volunteer with the East Valley NAACP Legal Redress Committee, is a mentor for new law school graduates, and gives a big tip of the hat to Dianne Post, whom he admires not only for her politics, but her ceaseless energy in working for a better and more satisfying world for everyone. Boy, oh boy, that's the truth. We could definitely learn a lesson about public service from Dianne Post. Is there anything that I missed in your bio, Vic, that you like to fill in the gaps?
No, it was too long anyways.
Okay, well, with that, go ahead to the screen share button. I'm going to hand it over to you. And what I'll do is it okay if questions come in, Vic, as they come in? Can I ask them, or would you like me to wait till the end?
Let's take them as they come in.
All right, sounds good.
So
I'll
now,
keep,
wait a minute. So I push the green button here.
and then find that screen that has your presentation. And then you
Right.
should be able to do just like we did before we started.
Let's see, where are we here? I think it's maybe this guy.
Yeah, bottom grade. There you go. You got
There
it.
we
And
go.
then
Got it. All right.
if it does work, and you can actually have the actual presentation, like, I don't know how to do it. It looks like you're using a Mac, but I think maybe there's a way to make it full screen. I think it's that little button that's next to the sliding scale. Let's see, if you look on the bottom of your screen, there's like a thing that looks like an open book. And then just to the right of that, I believe that if you click, go a little bit further to the left, if you can make it in the slideshow. Now, I do know sometimes with Macs, maybe that doesn't work.
You're not on a Mac. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think it's that little, if you go a little bit, like, again, I don't use, I use Google. So
He's
I'm
not using a Mac either, and it's not.
Okay, okay. So
it-
if you,
it looks
there's a
like-
little, okay, do you see where it looks like a little open book on the bottom?
An open book on the bottom,
See
right
that?
there.
Okay, yeah, just to the right of that, where you were. There you go. Perfect.
Is that what
And
we're
then you
looking
should
at?
be able to just click the arrows to go to the
Sure.
next one. Yes, perfect.
Just the-
All right, I'm gonna hand it over to you. Thanks so much for the assistance in the background and take it away, Vic, okay?
Okay, thank you. Pleasure to be here. And I've been working on VIX Picks for about 40 years, and it's a highly personal summary and analysis of the propositions, the judges, and whatever else I think voters might know something about. Secular Arizona, as you know, has been doing a fabulous job in putting people together and getting people together. And I just wanted to give an early shout out to civic engagement beyond voting for a lot of the information that I was able to collect and analyze and put together for about the judges and the propositions. So let's just start with the very basics about judges in Arizona. There are two kinds of judges in Arizona. One of them, one group is called elected judges, and the other group is called retention judges. And in the 4 or 5 largest counties, we have what we call, let's see, it's Coconino, Maricopa, Pima, and Pinell counties are retention judges. What this means is that if a person wants to become a judge, they go before they put in an application, they go before a judicial screening commission. If the judicial screening commission says, yeah, you meet all the qualifications, then they're appointed for a judge for 2 years. After the 2 years, they have to stand for what we call a retention election. You vote yes or you vote no on each judge that's on the ballot. Now, that doesn't sound like a very complicated system, but on the ballots in general in Arizona, and there's a different ballot for every county when it comes to judges. On the ballots in Arizona, there are 77 judges on the ballot in this election, and they're very difficult sometimes to find out information about them, and very hard to most of the judges are just doing their judge work. My general philosophy, let me see if I can get this thing to go enter. Do I push enter here? There we go. My general philosophy is that most judges are doing their judge thing. They're not particularly ideological. They're not particularly political. And they don't push an ideology or try to change the Constitution or give us an interpretation that strains the Constitution. And for these judges, the judges that are going to work every day and doing their job, I always vote yes. Unless I can find a reason for voting no, I figure these people work hard and judges really do work hard. And so can I make this a little bit smaller maybe so that people can see it?
I can see it. I have no
Oh, you
trouble
can
seeing
see
it.
it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we're
all right.
good. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And so these are the judges that go to work every day and do their what judges do, which is to judge things and hear cases and make decisions. But unfortunately, there are some judges who are more ideological than others. There are judges who are more inclined to impose their own values and their own value systems on the decisions that they make. And I want to talk a little bit about them. But before I do, I want to give a special shout out to a couple of judges. And I disagree with CEBV on this with regard to some of them. A couple of the judges who I feel have done a really fabulous job in the last 2 years in trying to deal with the Kari Lakes, the Abe Hamadas, and all these other election deniers and their MAGA lawyers. and trying to use the election system to cast doubt on the legitimacy of voting by lying, falsifying, and making baseless and frivolous claims. So when you go if you go to vote, when you go to vote, if you don't remember any other judges, if you don't remember any other judges and you haven't had a chance to look at any material, here are the top, I think, 5 judges in the superior courts that are running in Maricopa County and one in Cochise County. They're really quite a remarkable group, and they have really stood up for the rights of citizens and for the open and true elections that make a democratic country possible. Now, we have a couple of judges here that I think you might all be familiar with, and this is a strong no vote for these judges. I don't think I need to go into the details of why most people who might be listening to this program think that they should be voted out of office. But when you go into that polling place, you have a yes box and a no box, and you just check that no box. These are 2 very interesting people. Keith Bollock, all right? Keith Bollock has a kind of an interesting history. He was, he's a Federalist. He belongs to the Federalist Society and supports the views of the Federalist Society. I might talk a little bit later, or maybe if people have questions, we can talk about the Federalist Society. But fundamentally, they're an organization that started maybe 40 years ago with the singular objective of getting conservative judges in all positions up and down the judicial ladder to promote the most conservative and the most stilted and confined views of what our society should look like. There are 6 judges on the Supreme Court are members of the Federalist Society, and Clint Bollock is also a strong supporter of the Federalist Society. He chairs the Maricopa County Commission on Judicial Nominations, which screens all the judges. And he originally, he has no trial experience at all. He has no judicial experience at all. The way he got on the bench was, as you recall, Governor Ducey was very unhappy that there were a couple of judges, they were then 5 judges, who kept voting against propositions and rules and his orders and whatever it was. So he decided to expand the bench. And that expansion came by a legislative act that just made the bench larger. Keith Bollock was one of the beneficiaries of that. He was appointed to the bench by Ducey in 2016, and he had no prior judicial experience, as I said. He's a close friend of Clarence Thomas. He's a strong supporter of the Federalist Society and been a member of the Federalist Society for years. And he was vice president of litigation for the Goldwater Institute. And he's also a member of ALEC, which is it's a national organization, some of you may be familiar with it, that creates model laws of a very conservative nature and then tries to get them through state legislatures. So he has a very strong ideological position, and it's not a position which moves democracy forward. It's not a position which really helps society. And his decision, as you know, in the 1864 abortion case, which is what stirred up everything about the judiciary in the first place, was a decision which many jurists, many legal scholars think was simply wrong and did not uphold the law as it should have existed and as it did exist. So Clint Bollock is a strong no vote here. There is also Justice Catherine King. She also had no judicial background. She was a law clerk for Arizona Supreme Court Justice Michael Ryan, and then went to work for a lot of firms, several employer relation firms. That is, firms that try to fight unions, that try to fight union organizing, that are always bringing up appeals to the National Labor Relations Board. These are the kinds of firms that she worked with. She is also a member of the Federalist Society. She became Deputy General Counsel for Governor Ducey. Then he appointed her to the Board of Regents. She resigned from the Board of Regents and then was appointed to the Arizona Supreme Court. She has, as I said, no judicial experience before she was on the bench, and she has a strong right-wing conservative orientation that comes out in the opinions that she's either joined in or written. So these are two no votes. These are two people that I think definitely should not be retained because they're just bad for Arizona. They may be perfectly honest people, they may be, but they ideologically, they carry their ideology on their sleeve, and they are, in this day and age, not where democracy and not where Arizona needs to go. So Angela Patton in the Court of Appeals in Division 1 is also a no vote. And I will just tell you something about Angela Patton. She is, if I can just get my notes here, here we go. Yeah, we'll get back to her in a minute. She is also, I believe, a member of the Federalist Society. She's been the author of a number of very many jurists think bad opinions about the rights of individuals and LGBTQ plus rulings and stuff like that. She's a strong vote no, both from myself and from the CEBV. Let me see what else we've got here. On the Court of Appeals Division 2, which is sort of the southern part of the state, they're all great. They can all get a yes vote. No problems with any of them. Christopher Curry is another judge. Now, Christopher Curry has some interesting problems. It's actually Coury, C-O-U-R-Y. He got unacceptable scores from the Judicial Review Commission. He got a score of only 28% for integrity, 24% for communication, 32% for temperament. He ruled against the Invest in Ed initiative with a disdainful, excuse me, let me just shut this phone off. I forgot about the phone here. He said, instead of identifying all principal provisions in the initiative's description, defendant Invest in Education circulated an opaque Trojan horse of 100-word description concealing principal provisions of the initiative from voters. Unfortunately for the union, this Trojan horse ran afoul of existing legal standards. He's been known to be argumentative with defendants. He's been known to have a very rude approach to things, and he is scored low enough so that both CEBV and myself felt that he should not be retained as a judge in Maricopa County. Let's see. Pima County, everybody seems to be doing very well. They're very happy down there. The people seem to be happy with their judges. Coconino County Superior Court, excuse me, was the same. And then we have, let's see, I think, are there any questions yet so far?
Well, there was, sorry, there was one question, but you already answered it. They were asking specifically about the Pima County Superior Court. So we went ahead and shared your link too, and I encouraged everybody to go ahead and follow along.
Okay, great, great. There is a very interesting proposition on the ballot, and I know that Dianne Post has discussed these propositions, but I think this is a proposition. It has a direct relationship to the selection, nomination, and retention of judges. So I just wanted to talk about that for a minute. I call it the Bollock King Full Employment Amendment. This is an amendment to the Constitution, the state constitution. It's Proposition 137 that guarantees lifetime employment for Justice Bollock and Justice King. And what this does is it changes the retention selection method, abolishes it, and instead appoints all sitting judges to life terms to serve for the rest of their lives, as long as they have good behavior, which means essentially that good behavior means you haven't robbed a bank yet, or you haven't been caught in some financial scandal where you own 35,000 shares of stock in a case that's in front of you. Those kinds of things. These are lifetime retentions. These are lifetime appointments. I'm sorry. Retention of judges, voting for judges would be abolished under this. So, go ahead.
I have a okay, so I haven't really seen, and you might not be able to answer this, but I haven't really seen what their strategy is to try to get this to the voters. You know, I've seen the strategy when it comes to the, you know, tipping and taxes thing, and they're trying to frame it as if it's like better for the tipped employees. But I haven't seen much of, like, I guess what I'm saying is how do people think that this is a good thing? Well, what marketing strategies, if you've seen them, are they using to promote this as if it's good for our democracy and it's good for the citizens of Arizona?
I don't think that they are promoting this in that way at all. What this is something that the legislature put on the ballot in order to ensure that the Federalist majority on the state Supreme Court, or at least the Federalist bloc, I should say, on the state Supreme Court, remained that way. And the legislature, I think, frankly, doesn't like the idea that people can vote for judges. They want to go back to the system where you were appointed for life, and that was the end of it. I don't think there is really any marketing strategy here that I've seen. You're right. I mean, I haven't seen any marketing at all. But then again, we haven't really geared up for the most intense period of the election. Now, the interesting thing about this is that if the amendment is adopted, if Proposition 137 is adopted, it goes into effect immediately after it's approved, and it's made retroactive so that all the judges, in particular Justices Bollock and King, who might have lost in a retention election, all those votes are thrown out. They don't count for anything. They're a nullity. They're void. All the people who campaigned against these two judges, or who voted against these two justices, I should say, their votes count for nothing at all. So,
well, and somebody here in the chat is saying that they, in the ballot arguments, I actually just got mine yesterday and I haven't looked at it yet, but they're trying to argue that it will make ballots shorter and reduce ballot fatigue since there won't be so many judges. Never mind about your pesky democracy, folks. I mean, I know how hard it is for you to know about all these judicial retentions. So let's just get rid of a whole page. Like, what? That's not a very good marketing strategy, in my opinion. Sorry, go ahead, Vic. I'll give it back to you.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not a very good marketing strategy at all. If that's the strongest argument that you have, is to make it a little easier to decide what to do about judges. And, frankly, let's be frank about this. When people look at their ballot and they see 50 names, 45 names of judges, what's their reaction? I'm not interested in that. I'll just vote yes, 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 or no, 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 or every other one, whatever.
I
That's why.
remember, when I first came to Arizona, well, not when I first came, but I guess because I turned 18 in Illinois, but I got to vote for the first time here in Arizona. And for the longest time, until I got activated in local politics, I would somebody said, you know what, just vote no if you don't know them. And that's what I did for so many election cycles. I'm embarrassed, but I'm so grateful now for folks like you and for civic engagement, for helping, the everyday Arizonan who's really just focused on, like, trying to go to work and take the kids to school, a shortcut. You're very helpful in that regard. Okay, I'll stop
Well,
interrupting.
thank you. Thank you. No, this is a good discussion because that might be the strongest argument that they have. But what they're sneaking in there is this retroactivity. And essentially, every judge in the Superior Court, the Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court is now, if this proposition passes, is now going to get a free ride and never have to face the voters, at least in the big counties, in retention elections again. And I think this is a very, very bad thing. I think you're right. 90% of the people who look at that list of judges say, okay, yes, 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 or no, 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 I don't know anything about it. But organizations like yours, organizations like Civic Engagement, this is the tremendous task that you have voluntarily taken on to educate the voters about these judges. But there's something even more, I would say, startling in this proposition. Here's the real kicker in this proposition. There is a provision in the amendment that says that any legislator who has a whim and essentially doesn't like a decision that his judge has rendered in a case can file a complaint against that judge with the Judicial Review Commission, and that the Judicial Review Commission must undertake an investigation of the judges. It doesn't say this in the proposition, but this is what it's going to get to, because that's what they do. If you look at the ratings, their integrity, their philosophy, their attitudes, the rulings that they've made, and the purpose of this, and it's snuck right in there, nobody really realizes it's there, is to try to get judges, the judges that I've recommended, those kinds of judges like Judge Hanna and these other judges that I mentioned, to get in line. You want to keep your job, get in line with everybody else. Don't have a different opinion. Don't have a real belief in democracy and justice and all the things that a judge should have. Just toe the line. Now, what's interesting about this, and I want to go back a little bit, everybody's heard of the Nuremberg trials. One of the trials, I believe it was trial number 6, because there was a whole bunch of these, was the trials against judges and lawyers. And one of the things that came out in the testimony over and over again is that within the government structure, after Hitler came to power, they set up an investigatory commission to investigate judges and terminate their appointments for judges who did not follow the law as set up by the Reichstag and by the Nazi Party. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. This little couple of sentences in here is the beginning of trying to make judges more like Federalists and members of the Federalist Society, and less like people who give fair, open rulings. And so this is a very, very sinister, a very sinister provision which is buried in this proposition and is, no matter how you feel about lifetime appointments, this provision should be a no all the way down the line. So I just wanted to point that out as a real game changer if we get to that point and this proposition is approved. Let me see what we've got here. Yes. Now, I just want, how much time do we have left here?
Oh,
Okay.
you got plenty. Yeah, we got like 28 more minutes. Go ahead, Vic.
Oh, okay. All right, good. I just wanted to give a little tip of the hat to Civic Engagement Beyond Voting. This is their webpage here, their link, and they have churned out a very large analysis of, as they do every year, of the judges. And it's quite worthwhile reading. There's a lot of very interesting things in here. For example, they talk about the individual judges. They have comments about the individual judges. And it might be a little difficult to find this particular item, but you should look around a little bit and you'll be able to find the judges. Let's see. I think, where are we here? Whoop, oh, that's my last slide. Okay, I'd like to open it up for discussion. If people have questions about particular judges who are on the ballot, I'd be more than happy to talk about some of them. If people have any questions about the judicial retention system, I can talk about that. And of course, in Vic's Picks, we have a lot of comments about the propositions, but I don't know if you want to swing back around those since Dianne gave such a thorough analysis of them. But
Yeah, and we actually just I don't remember if it was last week or the week before that, but we did have League of Women Voters on here. You know, we know that the Civic Engagement Beyond Voting has put out their voter guide. And so for us, we just want to make sure that we kind of congregate all of this information. I don't know if that's the right word, but we bring all the information together and let people make their own informed decisions, right? Because I know that some people have come out against the like the ranked choice voting one. If you can remind me which one that one is. We just had somebody on though from an organization that promotes ranked, the open primaries one, that's right, 140. So in that case, you give it a cautious yes. I know other organizations have given it a no. I'll be honest with everybody on this call. I still am not quite sure where I stand with it, especially after listening to the ranked choice voting people a couple weeks ago. You know, I get what they're saying. And I'm with you kind of right now with the cautious yes. So yeah, that's the point of all of this, because we're nonpartisan. And we're a bunch of free thinkers, right? A bunch of critical thinkers. So we all want to make our own informed decisions. How about, okay, so I know that you mentioned school board races, and that's something that I'm very, very focused on. One thing that I've noticed, Vic, is that a lot of these more evangelical extremist school board candidates seem to have toned down their rhetoric this election cycle. It almost feels like they're being coached to be as completely vague and generic as possible on their social media, on their, well, for most of them, on their social media, on their campaign websites. So it can become really difficult for folks to be able to do research. Do you have any guidance? Let's say somebody is in maybe Marana, right? Where you've got some candidates who maybe don't even have an online presence. How can you know in those instances, is there a silver bullet there for folks to be able to figure out, like, how do I know which candidate here is serious and pro public education?
Well, yes, actually there is. Save Our Schools has done a tremendous job in analyzing all the school board races. It's a rather long document, and it has pictures and everything else. But they have recommendations as to which school board candidates to vote for. And I would recommend that if anybody wants to dig down into the school board races, especially as you point out, in the more rural areas within the county, where who knows what's going on there, that I would say that that Save Our Schools information sheet on the school board candidates is the place to go. There are, I don't know how many school boards in Arizona that have elections this year. I heard
I think,
something.
well, if it's a presidential election year, I can tell you, typically, most school boards in Arizona have 5 members. Some of the smaller, like rural districts, have 3, and then larger districts like Phoenix Union have 7. Maybe Tucson as well. I'm not sure. So in a gubernatorial election year, a presidential election year, it is 3. The majority of the board is up for election, and there may be 4 in some cases if there was a 2-year appointment, but typically the majority of the board is elected on in presidential election years, and then in midterms it is the majority, the minority of the board. So if it's a 5-person board, in midterm elections it'll be 2 people, in presidential elections it'll be 3, and there are about 300 school districts in Arizona, 58 in Maricopa County alone. One thing that I've been trying to do is ask people directly, do you support a bond or override in your district? Because as we all know, in Arizona, we have seen more budget cuts to education, public education, since 2008 than any other state. And so we often have to fill in the gaps with other, budgets or other funding. And so a lot of these folks, in private circles will say that they're absolutely against any kind of bonds or overrides, but publicly you can't nail them down. So I do feel like that's kind of a good litmus test for folks who really care about public education. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. Unfortunately, the way the superintendent of education runs the school system, it doesn't really lend itself to people saying, "Oh, wow, I really support." At least in my view, it doesn't really lend itself to people saying, "Oh, yeah, I really want to get out and support the schools." And of course, this what do they call it? Educational
Education savings accounts, scholarship accounts,
yeah,
ESAs. Yeah.
this thing that's been creating such a deficit in the budget. I mean, this is getting completely out of control. They had an article in the Republic today. Everybody who's listening, who reads the newspaper every day, raise your hand. I have to say, that's the only news source that I have. I just read the newspaper every day, and that's about it, because the Republic, not a great newspaper, but it has good local coverage. And I just saw an article in the paper today with this educational EVS, I think it's called, educational voucher system, something like that.
ESAs.
ESAs, that's it.
Yeah.
They have millions of dollars that parents are holding on to, not using, so they can pay the college tuition for their children that are getting the benefits of this ESA. Changing Hands bookstore, that you may be familiar with, had a meeting, I believe it was last night, about ESA and the problems with ESA, and over 100 people showed up. This is a financial scandal, but a lot of, I think, voters say, well, look, we've got ESA. What else do we want to do? Why do they need an override? All this money is around. And I think you're absolutely right. The core is, are you willing to support your schools financially with small or incremental tax increases? To me, there's no question about that. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and I just put into the chat, because as you said, a couple of days ago, AZ Family put out a report that says that thousands of families with school vouchers have unspent money in their accounts totaling $360 million.
Right.
So like, and we all know that there's no accountability. Like this is not just a K-12 savings account at this point. This is a vacation expense account. This is a college tuition account for some people. It boggles the mind that here we are with, where we had to cut projects, because we were so just straddled with debt because of this. And meanwhile, these millionaires and billionaires who are taking advantage of this program are amassing wealth.
Yeah.
It just boggles the mind. Yeah.
It was the Grand Canyon Institute just issued an analysis of the ESA program. My good friend Dave Wells has been in charge of that for years. They really do tremendous work, and they're definitely worthwhile looking into. I just wanted to add one thing about judges and lifetime appointments. And the judges that I said, these are especially good people and deserve recognition. There was an article in the Republic on Wednesday. It said 46% of Republicans won't accept a Trump loss. Now, and everybody knows all the problems that we had with the cyber ninjas and the tallies and the backroom deals with the president of the Senate and the rulings that these judges, for example, have been handing down continuously. I was very concerned about that poll. If you have a country where 46% of the members of a political party no longer believe that their candidate is capable of losing without some kind of shenanigans, you've got to have a judiciary which is really strong. You've got to have a judiciary that will stand up to that kind of thing. And I think that that's why the election of these judges should be of special importance in this coming election. I saw something in here. I think we got a couple of minutes left. I saw something in here, and now I can't find it, about Proposition 134. Did you see a note about that, a comment?
Let me see if I can take a look if somebody had a question about 134. I'm seeing 140. I'm seeing 139.
Okay.
Going back. I'm not seeing any. If you did ask a question about Prop 134, please put it back in the chat. I don't see anything. Maybe you saw 130 or 139, 140, and I see 137. That's the judicial retention one. Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions about
Okay. All right.
134.
That's
Yeah.
okay. All right. Maybe I can just make a comment about that one.
Sure,
Well,
go
a
ahead.
couple of
Yeah.
minutes. 134 is also a very insidious constitutional amendment offered by the legislature. See, what the legislature decided was that since Governor Hobbs inherited the veto stamp from a prior Democratic governor, that seems to go in the family or something, that they were going to try. They knew they couldn't get these past the governor's office. This is to repeal the right of citizens to put referenda and initiatives on the ballot by amending the state constitution to require that every single one of the 30 legislative districts meet a signature threshold. What this means, the way the system is set up now, you have to have a certain number of percentage of voters that have to sign the initiative or referendum initiatives. But what this does is it allows a small voting district, maybe some rural county out there, which is dominated by people who are, Trump supporters or whatever, to block any referendum or initiative petition signed by hundreds of thousands of Arizona voters. Every single individual legislative district has to meet the signature threshold, the percentage signature threshold. If one legislative district doesn't meet that threshold, the proposition can't get on the ballot. And I think that that's really puts a very unfair burden on the thousands and thousands of people who go out and collect signatures to get, for example, the abortion petition on the ballot, the constitutional amendment. So I just wanted to point that out to people as a kind of an insidious way of limiting what actually goes on the ballot by having this small areas be able to torpedo the entire thing.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, it's like establishing basically an electoral college for Arizona. You know,
Yeah.
the electoral college has, you know, undermined the popular vote a few times in the past, whatever, 40, 50 years. And it seems to me like that's kind of what they're trying to do here. There is somebody here who wants to know a little bit more in depth about your take on 140, the open primary ones. They want to know essentially, I think, like, why is this a cautious yes? Like, what gives you the most pause on this one, Vic?
Well, the thing that causes me to I'm going to vote for it, but the um, the legislature under this provision, the legislature is going to have the ability to determine how the final people who run in the general election is selected. And there's a number of different ways that they could do this. They can do it by the top two in elections where there's 3 seats open. You can maybe have the top 5. I would have preferred the a system which specified the number of top ranked choices that you would have for the different number of seats that are open. Frankly, I don't know why. I don't trust the legislature to do the right thing here at all. But the reason I support this, is that all candidates now will have the same signature requirement to get on the primary ballot. So at the present time, a candidate for some small party or an individual who wants to run has to get about 5% more signatures than a candidate from one of the 2 or 3 recognized parties that are official parties in Arizona. And this levels the playing field. This makes it a lot easier to have a wide diversion of voices running. It makes it a lot easier for people to say, well, we really have some real choices here, and we need to really look at what's happening here. So I think that provision alone would be worth voting for and for supporting this Prop 140. I might point out that there's some interesting combinations here. Who's opposed to this proposition? The Green Party, the Republican Party, the Arizona Free Enterprise Club, and the Arizona League of Women Voters. They're all against it. And I thought that was kind of an interesting collection of people who are not very often allies in anything. So I think that the sticking point for a lot of them is this question about how you determine how many top runners are going to run in the general election.
Okay, let me
Yeah.
see. Do I have anything else? Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about this one. And that's the thing, folks. You all get to make your own decision. I did put a link in there from Voter Choice Arizona that was a few weeks ago. They're obviously for it. Vic has given his opinion about it, and from here on out, you need to be able to just decide on your own. Full disclosure, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to vote on this. So you can take this, treat it like a buffet. Whatever Vic says that you don't like, just leave it at the buffet, okay? But, and if you feel strongly about it, I encourage you to tell others your feelings one way or the other, because we're nonpartisan. We just want our folks to be able to make informed decisions. So, let's see. Yeah. And I mean, it's hard for me to, like, I personally would prefer to have a party to belong to. Do you know what I mean? Like, being an independent, you don't really have, you get nothing. And if you do actually want to run for anything, you have to have more signatures. I don't understand necessarily why people want to be unaffiliated, but that's their business. And I don't know. I guess maybe we shouldn't make it more difficult for them to get on the thing. Yeah, okay. And Mary says, just don't leave 139 at the buffet. We're all gonna eat that up and send a big, huge message to the GOP in Arizona, and let them know, or the evangelical extremists, I should say, in Arizona, let them know to stay out of my bedroom, stay out of my doctor's office, get the hell out. So let's see, we're at 12:52. Let's see, looks like Vic's PDF cuts off on page 9 where mayoral elections start. Also, some of the initiative descriptions are cut off. Let me see.
Really?
I'm looking at it. Oh, I think maybe this might just be an unfinished documents because you do have a space here for mayoral candidates, Vic, but
Yes.
there's nothing there.
I
Now
haven't,
these, okay.
I think that Save Our Schools is putting together recommendations on the mayoral candidates as well.
Okay, good to know. Because these are also nonpartisan races, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So again, just like with school board races, city council races, y'all have to do your research. I know that, gosh, whatever district it was that Yasemin Ansari left in Phoenix City Council, I know that that's a pretty crowded race. So folks who live in that district are going to need to do their research, because I want to say you at this point have 5 candidates to choose from, and they're kind of all over the spectrum there. Are there any mayoral races that, like, I know you said SOS is going to be doing that, but is there anything that really sticks out to you that you feel like is in need of attention with
I have
municipal
to tell you
races?
frankly, I haven't even had a chance yet to even look at the mayoral races. That's one of those highly localized issues that in this election, at least in Tempe where I live, I don't think there's not an election here. It's very difficult. I mean, this is one of the problems of democracy. If you want to have a real democracy, you really have to do your homework. And I haven't done my homework. I have to confess, haven't done my homework on mayoral contests yet. But
Well,
that's
I mean, you just recovered from COVID, or you're recovering from COVID, so I feel like you get a pass here, Vic. Like,
I
and
don't think
by the
so.
way, if you do have any updates for us to add, just make sure that you email them to Lindsay or I. And it is 12:55, so again, I want to honor everybody's time. In your experience doing this work, Vic, you know, how do you feel about this election cycle compared to election cycles past?
Oh, I think this one is going to be uh, more vicious and more difficult to control than it has been in the past. I don't know how many of your participants today went down to the county recorder's office when the ballots were being processed in the last election, but I did, and it was a crowd really that was quite frightening to see surrounding this building and harassing people that were coming in and out. And of course, everybody knows how all this harassment has continued over the year, 2 years, threats and all this other stuff that's going on. And this is not unique to Arizona, although I think we seem to have a more intense form of this. But the idea, for example, that the Republican Party is going to be monitoring drop-off boxes for people who want to put their ballots in, instead of bringing them downtown, they're mail-in ballots instead of mailing them. Things like this I find very, very disturbing. And I think this is going to be a very, very difficult election to get through. This is going to be a tough, tough election, a lot of bad feelings afterwards. And that's why we need a judiciary that's strong enough to stand up and say, no, we're going to defend democracy and we're going to protect the vote in this election.
I know that you're really focused on Arizona politics, but one thing that concerns me about the presidential election is I've read a lot of things about the state of Georgia and how they've kind of just taken over their elections department to make it possible for just about anybody to say, I don't believe the results of this election. So and then I read about in Texas, they scrubbed a million people from the voter rolls. They were going to Democratic organizers' homes. I know, again, this is federal stuff, but are you worried about, this is the one year where I feel like it truly could be rigged, everybody, because they've implemented some of these state laws and local laws that could interfere with our election, like some rogue county board of supervisors in Mojave County or whatever. Are you worried about that? And how do we combat
absolutely.
it?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, this is a real issue. This is a real issue in not only in the smaller counties, but right here in Maricopa County. I mean, I think most people have lost track of how many appeals, cross appeals, and counter appeals of every aspect of this election, the past election, has had to go through the court system, some of which is still pending. This is a real dilemma. We're at a real, I think, serious, perhaps not fatal, but serious turning point in how people feel about the vote and how people feel about our democracy. I mean, there was just an article in the paper today, or started yesterday, that what is there, 100? I forget the exact number. 100,000 people, most of whom are Republicans, didn't didn't have proof that they were citizens of the United States. And because their licenses were renewed before it was 1966 or something like that. And that the Secretary of State is now aligned with the Republican Party to just let these people vote. Well, for years, the political parties, and this applies to both major parties, have been saying, yeah, they have to be citizens of the United States in order to vote. And in Arizona, we have this crazy two-tier system of federal offices and local offices. And all of a sudden, it's one party which has been beating the drum for proof of citizenship is now saying, well, you know what? Maybe we don't really need it after all. We'll just let them go ahead. So all of this stuff just becomes fodder for political movements and for political unease. And I think we're at a very difficult time in this coming election, and we should be prepared for a lot of court fights, demonstrations, and general civic discontent with the outcome, unfortunately.
Oh boy. Well, that's dark. So I need you to end us on a high note, Vic. These days, given the fact that somebody you think very highly of, Dianne Post, asserts that we are currently in a slow civil war, what these days gives you hope?
Well, I think that first of all, the number of people under roughly 30, I read some statistics on this, the number of people who are under 30 who are registering to vote is very, very large. People are turning out to register to vote in that age group, which hasn't really been a significant voter turnout factor before. And I think that people are much more aware of what it means to vote and what the effects of voting and not voting have. I think this campaign has woken people up to a certain point, a certain extent, that yeah, we need to get out there and vote, and we need to really protect our electoral system. I have never been a pessimist. That's what I love about Arizona. No matter how bad it gets, there's always something going on here that all of my relatives in the rest of the country call up and say, what is it? Is it the water or the air? And I say, nope, it's just Arizona politics, and you just go with it.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I may have a slightly dystopian view, but I think that things in the end are going to be okay. And after all the court litigation is finished, we're going to have, everybody will say, all right, we tried our best one way or the other, and this is what happened, and we're going to live with that. People are scared that it's going to get completely out of control, and I think that's a good check on public fervor.
Yeah, I agree. Watching TikTok on any given day, I try to avoid it because it's a huge time suck, but it does give me hope. The young people in this country give me hope, and people who share great information like this, like you, give me hope, Vic. So with that, everybody, thanks so much, Vic, for joining us today. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And I think it's a great program you run, and we'll talk again.
All right, sounds good. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Go canvass for a good candidate, and we'll see you next Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.